Okay, so just to talk a little bit more about valid bases of designation for things, and relating this to like our offering contemplation. And the fourth one says, I contemplate this food, treating it as wondrous medicine to nourish my body. Okay, so we have that. And then in other circumstances, we're told to contemplate the food, what it looks like after we chew it, as it's digesting the next morning, and to see that it's just kind of basically excrement in a pre-excrement form, you know. In other words, it's nothing beautiful or miraculous or wonderful to get attached to. Okay, so then you may say, well, wait a minute, it's miraculous medicine that nourishes my body, and it's also crap. Excuse my French. So, which is it? Okay, now in an inherently existent world, it would have to be one or the other. It could not be both. Yeah? Because in an inherently existent world, if something is something, it is that independent of all other factors. But we see here that how we regard food is going to change depending on the context, depending on the circumstance, you know? And so it wouldn't do to look at the food as feces right before we eat, because then we wouldn't eat, you know? And then our body wouldn't be nourished, we would get ill, we couldn't practice the Dharma, okay? So we don't use that label on the food prior to when we eat, unless we're having such amazing attachment that we're going to eat 3.5 gallons of ice cream all by ourselves, in which case to prevent that, you might think of it in this way. You know, but that's an extreme situation. But, you know, here before we eat, because we are eating, we have to nourish our body. Yeah, so we want to have a positive view of the food, but also be very clear about why we're eating. So it becomes wondrous medicine that nourishes our body, because it is medicine. The food we eat is like medicine. It makes us healthy, or if we take the wrong medicine, it makes us sick. Okay? So do you see that we can have two seemingly opposite labels or interpretations for what the food is, according to the circumstance? Both are valid in their own context, okay? But you have to know the context to know what it's about. Otherwise, you get confused, okay? So it's kind of like anything we look at, you know. We can give it multiple labels. I mean, the table could become a desk. Could become a sewing board, you know, or the boards, you know, where you measure your cloth. It could hold many different labels, okay? And as the Chittamadrins say, it does not exist by its own characteristics as the referent or the basis of any of those labels, you know? And that's because things are, you know, conventionally labeled. Yeah, if they were inherently existent, one label to one phenomena, nothing could ever change in no matter the circumstance. Okay? Yeah. Now, if you're eating lunch and you call it a sewing board, you know, then that's not the right context to call that, to give it that label. You give it another label. Okay? So, you know, the basic thing is just to get us to think that, you know, in the conventional world, things are not fixed. They're not solid. There's flexibility, yeah? And you can look at things from different angles and so on. In an inherently existent world, none of that would be possible, because things would be what they are, independent of any other thing. Yeah, and that clearly is not the case. Yeah.